So the economy, having talked about labor, we had to talk about capital. That's capital, as the work by Karl Marx was titled, and didn't mention Marx, no Groucho, but Karl Marx when I was talking about labor, because I was thinking more about labor from an individual perspective and what we can do as individuals about labor. Now, when it comes to capital, well, Marx distinguished labor as and capital as two forces that he he posited that in capitalism, capital was the main force, and labor was contracted and paid for, and capital could then profit further. Now let's think about a simple example. It's something you see often in this part of the world, and you used to see everywhere, and it has been historically very common, and that is the shopkeeper. It's it's a very enduring example of economic activity, and it tells us a lot. Because the shopkeeper brings his labor, but then he adds the element of capital by having a stock of items. And so he's a capitalist and he's a worker. And he can make a profit, sometimes a very reasonable profit, or sometimes these little shops just linger, making a small profit. So the person who works there is basically laboring and getting paid, as in some cases, very little to run this shop. In this town here, in this remote village here in the Amazonia, there's near my place. There's when I go in town, I walk by a street where there's a corner with two little shops across the street, and two little bodega kind of shops, and they are competing hard for very little business. Now, ideally, a shopkeeper, if he's operating a good business, or a trader in general, could be making a profit and that will pay an income, and at the same time the shopkeeper or trader could be putting part of the profit back in the business. So let's say in whatever unit of money that the shopkeeper wants to make 1,000 a month, because with 1,000 there's a survival pay for the family. So, and then let's say that the shopkeeper is smart to realize that he would like also to make 1,000 each month to put back in the business. And if he's in a very profitable business, or if he's in a very special location, he could have let's say a margin of 20%, because he has found a sweet spot where he's selling something nobody else brings to town, and he gets this stuff wholesale, and he is making 20% on that. Obviously, supermarkets and big stores don't make that much profit, not even close. So he's making 20%, and he wants to keep 2,000, one for the income for the family and 1,000 to grow the business. He would have to have a revenue, a sales of 10,000 a month. So our shopkeeper is like, okay, 10,000 a month. I had to sell 300 a day, a little more than 300 a day. and make 10,000 a month, and we have 1,000 for the family and 1,000 to put back in the business. Now he puts back into the business 1,000 when he's selling 10,000. That's that's a very large quantity because it depends on how much inventory he has, but how often he replenishes the inventory and all that. But let's say that 1,000 he puts back in the business is a 10% reinvestment rate. That means that it will be 20%, a little more than 20%, 21% in 2 months, and over 40% in 4 months. So in 8 months, he would have doubled the business. So our shopkeeper could be doubling or tripling his inventory or business in 1 year. And there are some fortunate shopkeepers who have done that actually. But most of them linger and many of them fail in their enterprise because there's not that requirement to enter this business. There's not much barrier to entering the shopkeeping business. So our shopkeeper, he is a capitalist because he has a capital in inventory and he is libre. So that sounds all very reasonable. Now then our shopkeeper may grow his business and maybe his children are fortunate because of the shopkeeper's labor to go to the university and get degrees and establish businesses. And maybe after a few generations, the family has done really well and they have enough money that now they have pure capital. They are investing this capital directly, maybe buying shops from shopkeepers or investing in transactional items like stocks and other investments. And that's when we get capital gains. That's when the capital is producing money. Let's say the very common example and very standard is to buy real estate. The long term tends to do well because population keeps growing and land is always the same. So real estate is kind of a foolproof investment beyond the little, or not so little, but the rock and roll of cycles when it gets hot and cold, boom and bust. So if you come in during the boom and out in the bust, that's bad. But besides that, in general, the trend is for real estate to increase in value again because there's more demand and the offer it tends to be limited. So if our family of now capitalists is buying real estate and selling it, holding it and selling it, is making almost a pure capital gain beyond improving properties and other investments. So how do we tax these capital gains? How should these people keep all the money they make transacting in the real estate business, or are they have a due to society to pay some? Or just in the pure case of stocks, buying stocks. And there has been a tendency to reduce capital gain taxes even less than labor taxes or regular income taxes. And that's because of strong lobbying by people who have capital and big money. In the United States, capital taxes can be significantly less than the income tax of a worker, of a salaried person. There are some loopholes that they even make it more profitable. And speaking of real estate, real estate investors can deduct the depreciation of their properties, which is a very intangible element. In Karl Marx's theories, Marxist countries or societies, the means of production and capital is owned by the state. That is the ideal of Marx. I don't think any system is perfect, or I think any system could work if there are no groups that become overly powerful, but that's the caveat, because again, we humans are predators, and in a capitalist system, the top earners are going to lobby and adapt laws to favor them more and more. And in a communist system, those in power, the bureaucracy running the society, will also tend to favor themselves more and more. But whatever system we have, we can consider how to do some things that sometimes are different from what we have been doing, just out of custom or out of, again, our old predatory ways. What is our capital? I'm kind of short here and other things, but I'm gonna leave it at this. Just after sunset and after we had the strong rains here.